Is it possible that the immense regret you feel right now, that thing that makes you wake up in the middle of the night beating your chest in despair, that you felt you were just a hair's breadth away from achieving it, is actually a time bomb wrapped in sugar? To prevent you from being blown to pieces, fate had to intervene and break your leg. You might think, I tried so hard, I prepared so thoroughly, I even gave alms to beggars on the street, so why did the chain still break at that crucial juncture? That life-changing moment? Why is it always you who's unlucky? Why did that promising project suddenly fail? Why did the person you loved so much suddenly turn their back on you? You feel it's the injustice of fate, your own lack of fortune, or even sins committed in a past life. But today I'm going to tell you something that sounds incredibly harsh, but could completely overturn your understanding of the rest of your life. What you perceive as misfortune is actually the result of your ancestors' accumulated virtue, a forced stop. What you perceive as obtaining what you sought is actually the universe's highest level of protection shielding you from disaster. We always think that as long as I get on this bus, I'll arrive at my destination on time. As long as I earn this money, I'll live a happy life. As long as I marry this person, I'll grow old together. But this is just wishful thinking. You only see the bus coming, but you don't see that it will plunge off a cliff in 5 kilometers. You only see the money coming in, but you don't see that this money will ignite your greed, leading you into an even bigger gamble 3 years later, losing everything. You only see that person's face, but you don't see the unbearable mental torment they might bring you 10 years later. Because your eyes are in the front, you can only see your current desires. God's eyes are in the heavens, He sees the whole cause and effect. Let's talk about something real. This reminds me of a particularly interesting paradox. You'll find that those who spend all their time praying to gods and Buddhas for everything to go smoothly often don't actually have such a smooth life. Why? Because they don't understand what true success is. In their understanding, success means doing whatever they want and getting whatever they want. That's not success, that's being a giant baby. If a 3-year-old sees a sharp pair of scissors, thinks they're shiny and beautiful, and cries to play with them, would you give them to him? You definitely wouldn't. You would snatch them away, and even slap his hand to teach him a lesson. What is that child thinking? He's thinking, this adult is so mean. He's robbing me of my happiness. He can't stand to see me doing well right now. In God's eyes, you're like that crying, overgrown baby demanding to play with scissors. You're heartbroken because you didn't get those scissors, that job, that windfall, or that relationship. You curse the injustice of fate in your heart. But what you don't know is that if those scissors had actually been given to you, even a small cut could have given you tetanus or even killed you. So God would rather you hate Him now, rather you suffer the pain of unfulfilled desires, than let that scissor slip from your hands. Doesn't that sound like self-consolation? Like an excuse for a loser? Okay, let's break down a classic story. Once upon a time, there was a king who loved hunting. He had a prime minister whose favorite saying was, "Everything is the best arrangement." He was practically the master of empty talk in his time. One day, while peeling fruit, the king accidentally cut off a piece of his finger. Blood flowed freely, and the pain was excruciating. The king was furious when the prime minister calmly remarked, "Your Majesty, don't worry. Everything is the best arrangement. It's like you just lost $1 million in the stock market, and your friend says, it's good to lose. Losing is a blessing in disguise." How would you react? Wouldn't you want to punch him? The king thought the same thing. He was enraged and ordered, "Lock this ungrateful wretch into the death row. Let's see if being in jail is the best arrangement for you." As the prime minister was dragged away, he was still smiling and didn't beg for mercy. A month later, the king recovered from his injuries and went hunting again. This time, things went awry. While chasing an antelope, he wandered into a primeval forest and was captured by a group of cannibals. This group of cannibals had a rule. Every full moon, one person had to be sacrificed to the heavens, and this sacrifice had to be perfect, without the slightest flaw. The priest stripped the king clean, placed him on the altar, and was about to strike when he suddenly noticed that the man was missing a finger, a defective offering. Offering such a man to the gods would be a grave disrespect, and the entire tribe would suffer. The priest, with a look of disgust, chased the king away like trash. The king, having escaped with his life, scrambled back to the palace. The first thing he did upon returning was to go to the death row and plead for the prime minister's release. He knelt before the prime minister, weeping bitterly, saying, "You're right, the severed finger was truly the best arrangement, it saved my life." But the story doesn't end there. The most exciting logical twist comes later. The king asked the prime minister, "My severed finger was a good thing, saving my life. What about you? You were imprisoned for a month and tortured for no reason. Is this the best arrangement?" The prime minister looked at the king and smiled, saying, "Your Majesty, this is certainly the best arrangement. If I hadn't gone to jail, would I be accompanying you hunting today? If I had gone, we would have been arrested together. You were released because of your severed finger, but what about me? I'm perfectly healthy, so wouldn't I be the one being roasted over the fire today?" After hearing this story, I want you to put down your phone now, close your eyes for 10 seconds, and think back to those unfortunate things in your life that made you grit your teeth. At the time, you felt like the sky was falling. You felt like your path was blocked, but now, looking back, if you had actually caught that plane, would you have been able to avoid that storm? If you had actually married that first love back then, given your youthful and impetuous personalities, wouldn't you have already caused chaos in your home, and perhaps even ruined your life? If you had successfully obtained that huge loan that year and invested in that seemingly highly profitable business, and then it collapsed, wouldn't you have not only lost money, but also been burdened with enormous debt and driven to suicide? We always use a microscope to examine our current suffering, thinking that suffering is boundless. But we rarely use a telescope to look at the long-term timeline. Many times, when God prevents you from doing something, it is because He sees dangers that you cannot see. This is not just superstition, it is an extremely profound game theory of survival. In physics, this is called the law of conservation of energy. In metaphysics, it is called karmic compensation. You must understand that everything you gain in this world comes with a price. Nothing is given away for free. When your blessings, or your energy reserves, are insufficient to support what you desire, forcing it will only lead to disaster. If your phone battery can only withstand 5 volts, but you insist on connecting it to 220 volts, claiming it will charge faster, the result will be an instant explosion. Many middle-aged and elderly people are particularly prone to anxiety in their later years. They see other people's children passing civil service exams while their own children are still struggling. They see others buying large houses while they live in old, dilapidated homes. They see others receiving substantial pensions while their own are struggling financially. What is the essence of this anxiety? You're trying to play God, believing your planned path is perfect, and deviating from it is failure. But have you considered that your child's failure to get a government job might be precisely due to their personality? If they didn't go there, they could have made a name for themselves outside, or at least lived a happy and carefree life, free from the cutthroat competition and depression. You didn't buy that house. Was it because the feng shui or the future risk of it being abandoned was something you simply couldn't afford? Sometimes God's methods to protect you are harsh and ruthless. He won't give you a notice explaining why. He'll directly set up roadblocks. He might make you fall ill to force you to stop. Come on, stop overworking your body, or you'll end up with a terminal illness. Making you lose money, your wallet, or get scammed is to protect you from a potential disaster. This is called spending money to avoid disaster, and it's not just comforting words, it's an energy exchange. Money is an external thing, a lower form of energy. Using lower-level energy to offset higher-level energy that harms the body is the most worthwhile trade. But we humans are too greedy and too attached. We always fixate on what we've lost, repeatedly ruminating on that pain in the dead of night. This rejection is more terrifying than the pain itself because it constantly sends a signal to the universe. I am a victim, I am miserable. I don't deserve anything good. Do you understand? When you are filled with resentment because you haven't received something, you are actually rejecting divine protection. What a foolish arrogance. Let's broaden our perspective a bit. In Zhuangzi's philosophy, there's a state of being called the use of uselessness. A tree grows crookedly, unsuitable for making tables. Everyone calls it useless. But precisely because it's useless, it wasn't cut down. It lived in the mountains for thousands of years, growing into a great tree, eventually becoming a source of shade and shelter for people. Those straight, seemingly useful trees? They were all cut down long ago, turned into tables and chairs, and used by people to sit on. The setbacks you're experiencing now are the opportunity for you to become that divine tree. What you perceive as career setbacks might actually be avoiding the treacherous world of officialdom and preserving your integrity in your later years. Your business failures might allow you to return to your family, enjoy family life, and avoid the loneliness of being poor with only money left. Every rejection is actually a redefinition. But I know you're going to ask, should I just give up? Should I stop trying? Should I accept all failures with a smile? I'm not telling you to give up. I'm giving you a scalpel to cut through your stubborn ego. What you need to do is do your best and leave the rest to fate. These 6 words have been said to death, but very few people can actually do them. What does do your best mean? It means that if you want something, you go for it, go all out to get it. But if by the 3rd time you still encounter numerous obstacles, still inexplicably fail, and even feel physically and mentally exhausted, filled with negative energy, then please stop immediately. Turn around and leave without hesitation. Because at this point, the obstacles are no longer a test but a warning. It's as if God has erected a huge red sign in front of you, saying, "This road is blocked, there are thunderbolts ahead." If you still insist on forcing your way through, insist on crashing your head against this dead end, and still shout, "I don't believe it," that's not courage, that's suicide. True wisdom is knowing how to quickly switch channels when you can't get what you want. Here's a mental technique I hope you'll keep in mind. Next time you encounter bad luck or unrequited love, take a deep breath and say a mantra. It's not Amitabha or God bless you, but a very simple 6-word phrase, thank goodness. Does it seem a bit crazy? Saying thank goodness when you lose money, or when you're heartbroken, yes. That's the kind of crazy spirit you need. Since the event has already happened, your emotions can't change the outcome, but the phrase you say can change your energy field. When you forcefully output thank goodness, your brain will momentarily freeze, then be forced to find reasons why it's so good. Missing the bus is great, thank goodness. Maybe there was a strange smell on that bus that I didn't like, or maybe I'll meet an old friend on the next bus. This deal fell through, thank goodness. This indicates that this client will definitely be extremely difficult to deal with in the future. Getting away now is a way to cut your losses. Even if you were initially pretending, you might gradually come to believe it. When you say this is the best arrangement, you'll find your mood changes. That anxiety, anger, and resentment instantly dissipate. replaced by an unprecedented sense of relaxation. Once you relax, your luck naturally improves. This is how your environment changes with your mindset. You must believe that the universe has a huge balancing system. What you've lost now will definitely return in another form. Or perhaps it never left, it just changed its appearance and became health, peace, or family harmony by your side. Sometimes, loss is simply to make room. If you're clinging tightly to a thorny cactus, bleeding profusely, and God wants to hand you a gold brick, how can you accept it? So, God makes you suffer to force you to let go. Only by letting go can you access something better. At this age, you should have seen through everything long ago. The script for this drama of life was already written. You think you're the director, but you're just an actor. A good actor won't quit just because there's a scene in the script where you get soaked in the rain, nor will they feel inferior just because they played a beggar. They'll perform the role well and find joy in dancing in the rain. Stop dwelling on the people and things you missed. The person who couldn't accompany you to the end did so because their mission was complete. They could only accompany you to this stop. They got off to make way for someone more important. The thing that wasn't accomplished happened because its destination was a cliff, and fate pulled you back. You should feel fortunate, fearful, and deeply grateful. Grateful for that failure. Grateful for the girl you missed. Grateful for that sudden. The unexpected changes are what sculpted your heart into success. They prevented you from falling into truly irreversible abysses. In the future, when things don't go as planned, don't look up and ask the heavens why it was me. Instead, look down at your heart and gently say, "Thank you for protecting me." No path in life is wasted, every step counts. Even the pits you stumble in are there so that when you climb out, you can see a wider sky. Don't be afraid the sky won't fall. Even if it does, God will hold it up. You only need to focus on living life to the fullest. God will take care of the rest. Finally, I want to ask you a question. Don't rush to answer. Think about it carefully before bed tonight. If what you've lost now is a gift you can't even dream of in the future, would you still be willing to cry like a child over this trivial matter?